She speaks the truth. There's only two types of people in the world, the ones that entertain and the ones that observe. And Chris Crocker, which is he, Mr. Rubin?
He certainly is an entertainer. He is the first internet entertainer. Now every idiot and their brother is on YouTube and on all the channels doing their stuff. But he's the guy that basically invented it and blew the whole thing out of the water.
So we
not Al Gore inventing
we owe
the internet.
What we're doing to Chris Crocker. He's the first internet entertainer. Wow,
we owe Chris Crocker everything.
That was big of you. All right, so his "Leave Britney Alone" video is up to 50 million hits, and we've had him on the show once before. I'm actually kind of proud. We had him on when people were still making fun of him.
Yeah.
And he was down in the dumps. If you go back and listen to the interview, he was down in the dumps because his TV show hadn't gotten picked up.
Right.
And he was shopping around this documentary.
He sort of felt that he had been blacklisted by Perez Hilton. What was next for him? And now it's all come, is this full circle or is this half circle? Because now he's got this HBO documentary, Me at the Zoo, coming out. And he's doing all this press. He was just on Watch What Happens and all these shows. And he's back in the media doing his thing.
And Chris Crocker is on the phone now.
Hey, Chris, what's going on?
Hello.
Well, I do have to say, Chris, after watching the documentary last night, Dave and I are both crockheads. Is that what we call ourselves now?
We are now officially crockheads.
Well, the official word for my fans is crock stars. But if you want to be crockheads... it sounds really sexual, so that could work. You know?
Well, we always have to be a little different. How you feeling with all this press and suddenly mainstream media jumping on the Chris Crocker bandwagon?
Well, it's always kind of like that. Like anytime, even like before with the, when the Britney first came out, no one wanted to touch me. The second I'm like everywhere on these outlets, all these other people are like, oh, well, it's cool to like him. Okay, let's interview him. So, I know how to kind of prepare myself for the flatlining moments and then the peaks and valleys stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, well, the last time we talked to you, I think it's safe to say you were in a valley because you had lost the TV show. I think you were starting the documentary, but it wasn't quite working out. And you're really down in the dumps about yourself. So how are you managing this now? HBO is behind you. Does it feel like you're finally legitimate? Is this the Chris Crocker comeback?
Well, I've definitely never went anywhere. Like I said, it's just kind of the only difference is that now it's cool to acknowledge that I exist, even though I've been existing all this time online still. So, it's just that whole thing of like, okay, there's a corporation behind my project now, so let's sort of, I don't know. I don't like the comeback thing because I've been here all along.
Right. Yeah. I have to ask you, most importantly, we thought that maybe you were going to be joining us in studio today, but then you twit-picked us. Your feet, They're basically bleeding from walking around New York City. Are you okay? And can we recommend a good flip-flop? Because I got a guy.
They're not bleeding. Like, I'm not being melodramatic, but they do hurt like a great deal. And I hate to sound like that, like a whiny baby or whatever, but it's just I walk so much. The city, I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
Like in Tennessee, I run a lot and stuff on the treadmill, but the sort of continuous walking sort of lifestyle day to day, I haven't gotten used to that yet. So.
Now, are you getting like the A-gay treatment while you're here? Because I know the Out NYC. You're staying there while you're here, and you've been doing club appearances. Are you feeling like a gay celebrity while you're in New York City?
Oh, goodness.
Although apparently you can't get a cab around that area.
Right, so I don't know how to feel about it. I mean, one minute I have, HBO sending me cars, taking me everywhere, and then the next minute it's hard to get a cab. So, it's like I said, my life is just sort of, it's a constant mixture between like, oh my God, how one minute I'm getting really nice cars to pick me up and then the next I can't get a cab. So
let's jump into talking about the documentary because honestly, we both watched it last night and loved it. It was really, really good. It's called Me at the Zoo, and that reference is the first YouTube video ever put on YouTube. Is called Me at the Zoo, but it also has what does that mean to you in terms of your life?
Well, I didn't title the documentary. The directors did, so that's more their take on my life story, I guess you could say, and their sort of perspective. And that was the whole thing about the documentary, is that I didn't really have a say in the creative process, which I really enjoyed because I'm so in control of what the people see. So the title of the documentary, it's a vague sort of reference to the first YouTube video ever created, but it's also, I guess you could say, sort of, I don't know, not a comparison to what happened to me as the first of its kind, and that was sort of the place it was taking place is YouTube. So, I don't know, it's a few things, and I think that the directors thought it was a really poetic title. So.
Yeah. How do you feel sort of in the bigger kind of gay picture? Because as we talked to you about last time, you were the poster child for bullying, and then your video, which blew up, the Britney video, was about you wanted people to stop bullying her. Now all we hear about is gay bullying, and now maybe we're turning a corner here. Do you think we are?
I don't know that we're turning a corner. I mean, I just heard recently about these kids that were bullying the elderly woman that was a driver or something, and I haven't seen that yet, which I plan to do. I don't know. I think that regardless of how many campaigns, and that's not to discredit them, but there's so much that needs to be done, I think, just in schools and in-person things. You can only do so much with online campaigning, and I think that kids, it's such a harsh reality what's going on in schools today, and I think that's where kids learn a lot of their behavioral skills in terms of being bullies and stuff is what they get away with at school, and then they take that into the real world and don't realize that how you act in school isn't necessarily going to fly in the real world.
But do you think there's a chance that sometimes a certain amount of bullying is actually kind of good? I mean, in a way, it made you who you are. I feel like it did the same for me. I think there's other people when you get a little adversity.
Break you. That's the problem in a way. It's the problem and the blessing, because it's like there's a lot of people that don't have a strong sense of self that I really feel for. Bullying can do two things to you. It can make you an extraordinary machine, Fiona Apple reference, or it can tear you down. It's all in how you process it.
Yeah.
And not everyone processes it the same. And I think there needs to be more tolerance taught in schools. I really do.
Do you think you could have made it through without your camera? Because one of the things I thought was really interesting in the documentary is that you brought your camera around in public in case people were going to beat you up, or you brought it with you to the supermarket where someone had beat you up. So it was protection for you in a sense.
Right. It was, it's like you said, and I would take it with me too. When I was getting death threats, I would leave the camera I didn't know if anything was going to happen, but I would just turn the camera on in case an event took place, and so that there would be footage. I mean, as dramatic as it sounds, I was like, oh my God, if someone kills me, or if this is like a Matthew Shepard situation, as dramatic as that sounds, when you're 19 and getting hundreds of thousands of death threats, it is kind of like, okay, well, I want to document if something does happen so that people can know it happened to me. As like silly as that sounds in a way, that was really my thought process.
Yeah. Now, last time we had you on the show, it was November 2010, and you were about to embark in a porn career. I'm pretty sure that's off the table now, right?
It's I don't know. It's I have a lot more beneficial things, I guess you could say, that are on the table. But I also, and this could happen later on, but for me, I have a very sort of political mind, and a lot of people think it's from an attention whore kind of place, but it's really, I think we live in such a sex-phobic society, and it really is more socially political to me than anything, and it's like weird. It's almost like I set myself up to be in these little boxes that I need to break through. It's like, I need to personify this 15 minutes of fame character and break that mold. It's like weird. I don't know. I feel like with porn stars and things, we look at them as just objects, and we jerk off and masturbate to the porn, but then we disrespect and look down on those people. So it's like really interesting to me just psychologically. So I don't know if I'll do it.
What was the response like when you cut off your hair and you became a more masculine version of Chris Crocker? I know a lot of people thought you were hot, but what about people in like the transgender community? Were they like, hey, what about us?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of flack, surprisingly, from the transgender community, which I don't understand, because isn't the whole sort of message of the transgender community, sort of accept me as I am and whatever. Like, it's really jarring to me that people can't understand fluidity. It's like I can't just fill both sort of gender spaces as freely or whenever I want to. It's just, I don't know. I think the transgender community wants a spokesperson as well as the gay community, and I never happen to fit the spokesperson sort of slot for any category, and I don't know why people look to me for that, because I only represent myself. I just so happen to be this or that. So
yeah.
Do you think you'll go back to, your transgender?
No,
you're done.
My personal gender identity has changed a lot, because you can see a clip in the documentary where I'm asking my grandmother to accept me as transgender, and that I feel like a female inside. And I have a very a female mind, but I'm also very content with my anatomy. So it's and so I don't identify in the traditional transgender sense, I guess you can say, of feeling trapped in the wrong body.
Right.
And because of that, I don't necessarily feel the need to explore, am I trans, am I not, because I'm content in my body. And I know my mind may be female, but I can express those emotions through other things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, where do you think the gay hate comes from? Because it's one thing I can sort of understand, when they go through in the documentary, all these people hating on you and the comments and all that. And I can sort of understand the straight mindset that just doesn't get it, but you get plenty of it from the gay community too. What do you think that's about?
It's a lot of things. I think the gay community wants a spokesperson for them that is completely heterosexual friendly, that can camouflage into the straight community, that can easily fit in with that, like an Anderson Cooper type. And I don't fit that mold, clearly, so let Anderson Cooper fit that mold. I just don't quite understand why, if the rainbow is supposed to be our representative as the gay community, why we can't have more shades, feminine, masculine, whatever. It's like everyone, it's like people love to say, I'm the reason gay people get bullied. It's their favorite thing to say. It's their favorite thing. Even in the artsy-fartsy gay crowd, where they're supposed to be so worldly. And, it's just amazing to me how people really want to pin discrimination on one person. And even if it's not discrimination, they want to look at me as like, oh, you're useless, you're untalented, there's so many other people that deserve a documentary, why are you getting it? And so there's numerous reasons gay people hate me.
Yeah. Do you think it was that a certain amount of people were afraid to work with you because of whatever happened with that sort of falling out you had with Perez Hilton? Because the guy's obviously got a crazy amount of power.
Absolutely. Numerous people who have told me, people from the production companies at World of Wonder, when I was filming my pilot with them, Perez is emailing us and asking, are we really working with you? And it would never, to my knowledge, be like a flat-out, just don't work with him type of thing. But he was just very he just shaded me. I don't know how else to put it.
I mean, that's incredible. He who now is pretending to be, stand up against bullying. I mean, he even was bullying you in a really profound way.
And do you know why? Do you want the exact reason why? It is, and it is what it is. It was because Perez and I were civil. We used to talk on AIM. Back
in 1842.
Like in 1842, we used to talk on AIM. No, it was actually 2006, 2007, before the Britney video, and he would every now and then post my videos and be like, he would say something like, oh, Avril Lavigne just posted a new video because he thought I looked like her and he was being funny or something.
Right.
And, he would post my videos every now and then, and we were kind of cordial. Well, then the Britney video happened, and of course he wanted to be, in my opinion, the only gay guy to cross over in any sort of mainstream way from the internet. And and in an interview, and even in the Leave Britney Alone video, I speak about Perez. A lot of people don't realize that in the video I say his name.
Right.
And he got pissed off about that because beforehand we were cordial, and he felt like I betrayed him. And I'm sitting here thinking, I was nothing but upfront about the fact I was a Britney fan. I didn't support the way he talked about her. Even in just conversation, I would tell him that. But he said he felt betrayed because I said in interviews or whatever that he shouldn't do that. It's like middle school. And so I don't know if he's changed. Hopefully he has. I mean...
Well, I don't think you're shaded anymore. I think that's obvious if you got HBO behind you.
Right. I don't think I'm shaded anymore, but I don't see a congratulations coming from Perez anytime soon.
Yeah. Now, what about Britney? What's the latest on her? Have you heard from her now that HBO is behind you? Do you think that she might reach out to you?
I don't know. I mean, you never say never. I don't, suffer from regret, but there have been things, namely, like me ripping down my Britney posters in my room and stuff, that people really well, I don't even know if they're misconstruing it. Maybe it's just the way anyone would take it. Like, oh, he's really just, betraying Britney and whatever. When you're living your life for years and years as being seen as the Britney boy, you kind of grow a resentment, not necessarily to Britney, but just, even though in the video I say, you never thanked me, there's just a lot going through my head. I felt very betrayed by the media, by Perez, by the production companies I worked with, by just everybody. And to be minimized to Britney boy, I felt like I need to take back my identity. And that was the beginning of me taking back my identity, was ripping down my Britney posters, posting that on YouTube, and kind of saying, fuck it. It wasn't that I made the Britney video to get a thank you from Britney. That was never my intention. Yeah. But, I mean, hello, 40-some million views later, if I would have made a Leave Shakira Alone video or Leave Mariah Carey Alone video, I'm sure they would have reached out and sent me a fruit basket.
Right.
Because Britney...
I feel like Shakira would send a fruit basket. I agree.
Yeah.
There's a really poignant moment in the film where your grandmother, who a lot of times doesn't seem exactly supportive of what you're doing, she's sort of in the corner saying, well, I spent a lot of money on Britney, on these posters, on CDs, and she can't even thank him. So she came to your defense.
As far as my grandmother, though, I think it's interesting because in a way, because she is, religious and socially conservative, etc., my grandmother represents my critics in a way, but she's also my biggest supporter in terms of loving me unconditionally and in the face of her own family and church turning against her. So it's very interesting, our relationship, because we don't agree on anything, but our love for each other is just very solid.
If there was ever a moment where I almost teared up, or fine, I did tear up.
Uh-oh, and Ben does not have tear ducts.
when your grandmother was defending you.
Yeah.
It was cute.
That was sweet, but the part where I teared up, and every time I saw it for the first 5 times, was the scene with my mom and Thean at the park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was just, so.
Yeah, well, Chris, we loved having you on the first time, and we actually are incredibly happy that so much good stuff has happened for you. And if nothing else, you now are the poster child for people who should just be themselves relentlessly, and we appreciate you coming on and chatting with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and I do apologize that I didn't come over there today. I swear to you that if I felt remotely up to it, I would have.
7 blocks, Chris. 7 blocks.
We will.
Oh my gosh, I know that sounds horrible, but I am a Tennessee boy, so 7 blocks to me is.
We get it.
What kind of shoes are you wearing around New York City? You have one more day.
I think that was the problem. I'm wearing Sperry's.
Oh, yeah, you got to break those in.
Are raw.
Yeah.
My 2 partners here are always wearing Sperry's, and that's going to get you. I want you to try these Sanooks. They're flip-flop made out of they're made out of yoga mats. They're incredible.
Well, I had a flashback because one of my first times in New York, I was wearing 6-inch heels and ended up walking probably 50 blocks. I was on a date, and I literally had to run into a sneaker store and buy sneakers because my feet had blisters, and I was just like, I just spent $50 on sneakers, and I'm in a dress, and I'm wearing sneakers, and my feet are killing me. So
happens to us all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. All right, cool. Phil, thank you so much, Chris, and good luck with the documentary and everything else you got going on.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
The Six Pack.